I'm Peyton, and this is Jared. This is Kidtalk.
Kidtalk is where we interview people who make games, design games,
And pretty much anyone who likes games.
Yeah, and today we're interviewing Eric Lang, who's the designer of Boardgames. Hi.
Hey, you guys, how's it going?
Good. How's your day been?
It's been going good. I got up very early this morning and made games at about 7 o'clock, and now it is 1 p.m., so I've been making games for the last 4 hours, so you guys gave me a nice break.
Why do you have so many pandas on your shelf?
Why do I have so many pandas on my shelf? Well, let me tell you. I'm actually, to many of my friends, my wife, my nieces and nephews, they actually call me Panda. This just happens. I'm sort of obsessed with pandas. I really like them. When I was a kid, about your age actually, Jared, when I was about your age, I went to, a long time ago, I went to the Toronto Zoo and I was able to hug a panda. You can't do that anymore. But that was, after that, I was just obsessed with them. Now, all of these pandas, I did not buy any of these, but because all of my friends know that I like them, they keep buying them for me. So like, they're all from like my coworkers, my colleagues, my wife, my friends, they all get them for me. So my house is kind of like a shrine to pandas.
You have a lot more pandas, I'm guessing?
I do, yep, in various forms. They're all kind of, if we did a scavenger hunt, you would have a hard time finding them all.
How did you get started in making board games?
Well, when I was, again, actually, Peyton, when I was your age, I used to, actually almost exactly your age, I used to go visit my grandmother. Yeah, I was between 6 and 8. So yeah, around 7. When I used to visit my grandmother in Germany every summer. And she lives in a small town called Neuss, which you've never heard of, but it's a small town with not a lot to do. So we ended up playing board games all the time. And this was a long time ago, right? This was 40 years ago. So there are not as many board games then as there are now. So we played these sort of boring, like not that great board games. And I loved spending time with my grandmother, but I didn't like the games. So I'd modify them and I'd change them. I would add like dinosaurs to them and robots and stuff. And I would just change the rules just to have more fun with her. And because that happened when I was so young and I was very creatively minded, that sort of stuck with me my whole life. So I've been creating stuff in the art forms that I love since then. So I've been a little game designer for like 40 years.
How did making games turn from a hobby to a career?
So that's a good question. So we talked about this. I've been making games my whole life, but when I was about 22, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and that changed my life. It was so amazing. I met so many friends, and that became my whole social circle. And I didn't even know it at the time because the term didn't exist back then, but I was a gamer. And that was basically my lifestyle. And that was part of my identity. So like I said, I'm a creative guy. So I always wanted to make games like that. So I designed lots of role-playing games, just like D&D. But then I started working at a game store in my hometown. And I started, so you'll love this. When I was working at the game store, I used to run tournaments. What kind of tournaments was I running?
Game tournaments?
Pokemon tournaments. Because around that time, Pokemon had just come out from Wizards of the Coast. So this is way back when Wizards of the Coast was running the game. So there was only one set. I was one of the first, we call it the pilot. I was one of the first stores that was run Pokemon tournaments. And I learned so much from watching kids play Pokemon. And in fact, many of the kids that were playing Pokemon at the time are now coworkers of mine. They're in their 20s. So I learned a lot from there, and I decided that I wanted to be publishing games around that time. So I started just making games and submitting them to publishers, just saying, here, I want to show, none of these publishers exist anymore, but publishers from back then, I would show them, I just mailed them games and say, like, you want to publish this? And they were like, oh, that's a nice idea, but it's not that good. So I learned a lot. They showed me how wrong I was, but I took the criticism. I learned it, and I got better and better and better and better at it. And then I just started publishing my own games when I was 25. So that was fun, but it was very hard, because when you do that, you become a business person more than you become a game designer, because you have to run a business, you have to run your own publisher. So all of my time was spent in meetings and sales calls and working on logistics. See, like I can see how bored you guys are just listening to that. That's how boring it was for me. I just want to make games. So that didn't really, I did that for 2 years, and I decided I really don't want to do that. But I had made good relationships with the publisher Fantasy Flight Games, who makes, they make games like Descent and Arkham Horror and all these cool big box games. And they asked me, like, I told them I wanted to stop working, I wanted to stop running a game publisher. And they asked me if I wanted a job. And I said, sure, of course I'd love a job. I just want to design games. That was in 1999. So that was 21 years ago.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
It is. It's double your age, in fact.
About the Pokemon tournaments, Brian and me are about to start a Pokemon tournament.
Oh, yeah? That's cool.
We have a lot of Pokemon cards, and we want to, like, get them out and try, like, fighting with them. And if Pokemon get knocked out during the battle, then you can't use them during the next battle. And you just keep going. Whoever still has Pokemon left wins.
But in the normal starting parts, you can use the ones that were knocked out.
Okay. Well,
So
see, now you don't know. I don't know if you know this, but what you're doing, like, yes, you're playing Pokemon, but you're already doing a little bit of game design yourself, right? You're taking a game that you know, and you're starting to add rules in a new environment to suit what's fun for you. That's cool.
Mhm.
That's how I started.
Are there any game themes that you find yourself making games with?
What?
I mean, so you're asking what themes do I like, right?
What themes do you find yourself putting in games?
Oh, sure. I've been doing this for a long time. So what I'm attracted to is new stuff, something I haven't explored before. And like in the past, I've done, like, you see these big box games here, right? I've done games based on mythology, like Japanese and Viking mythology and Egypt mythology, but I put my own twist on it, my own spin. Because, in fact, also when I was your age, actually this would be Jared's age, the same grandmother in Germany, the other thing I would do is I would read these books on mythology, but they were in German. So they were German books about mythology from other cultures. So it was already a little twisted. Because I grew up with those, I thought it would be fun to make games based on my understanding of those mythologies from those German books. So it became so, like, do you know the game Telephone? When you whisper something to somebody and they whisper something to somebody else and it comes out really
The telephone game?
weird and different? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We
it
actually
became kind of like
played
that.
But
We've played that.
it says it's the Whisper.
If you guys enjoyed that, there's a game I want to recommend to you called Telestrations if you haven't already played it.
We have it.
It's a telephone game, but with drawing. Yeah, see, that's cool, right?
It is. Is it at home or here?
It's at home.
It's at home.
So do you know where that game comes from? There was a game, sort of, but there was a game, there was a drawing game, a public domain drawing game called Eat Poop You Cat. That was a public domain game made that was on Board Game Geek. And
what is it called?
we don't know. You might have to censor this from your channel, but it was called Eat Poop You Cat. The reason they called it that was because because it's a funny thing to say, and it came out at the end of of a different sentence. But yeah, that's where that came from. And so the idea for Telestrations came generally from that. And so that's one of the cool things about games, right? That you get a lot of great games come from an idea that already existed, but they put enough of a change, enough of a spin on it that it's new and fresh. I love stuff like that. So, and a long way to answer your question when you're saying, what themes do you like? I love doing stuff like that. I love finding old, like these games we used to play as kids, or even things that look like games but aren't games yet. And I'd like to turn those into games of different types.
When you're making prototypes, what's the weirdest prototype piece you've ever used?
The weirdest prototype I've ever used.
Prototype piece.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, I can't believe I remember this. So I guess this would be about 10 years ago. I lived in an apartment much smaller than this one. And I lived with a black cat that was, my best friend. We always hung out together. Anyway, it was when you, I don't know if you have pets or not, but if you brush your cat, right, you end up with a brush full of hair, right?
Yes.
And my cat would shed like crazy, and I would end up, there's a joke that says like, "Oh my God, I have so much hair, I could make a new cat out of it." Now, I actually made a sticky game, where about a little ball that you run around and it catches things, and I made it out of my cat's hair. That is we did not publish it. It was silly, but that is the weirdest prototype component I ever made.
A cat hair ball.
That's right. Well, no, not a hairball, because that's different. Hairball is like, right? Ugh, no.
A cat hair ball.
Yes.
Not a cat hairball. A cat hair ball. A ball of cat hair.
A cat.
There you go. Well, yep.
A cat.
That's right.
That's
a fur ball. There you go. See.
That's better.
See, you're thinking like a game designer. You have to use the exact right word so you can be clear, right?
When you're making a game, do you start with the theme or the mechanic? Like in the idea?
Both. So I always think of games from all angles at all the time. So the idea usually comes in the shower, right? Like just something like, oh my God, this would be something cool. Like I imagine something that like the source of an idea, it could come from a theme, it could come from a toy, it could come from a gimmick, usually not a single mechanic. It's usually something like some kind of hook is what we call it, right? Why would I want to play this, right? Like, oh, I want to play a dodgeball card game, or I want to play a game about Greek mythology, or I want to see a game where like a tug of war game with sticks, right? Something like that. But the theme, so when I think about the game, I will start thinking whatever the reason that I thought about the game, I'll start building that. But then, because I'm a game designer, I can't help but think, all right, well, how am I going to use mechanics to implement this? So then I go back and I think about it from a different angle. Like, all right, now I'm going to think, forget about the theme. How does this actually going to work? Now I got something to work. Now I go back and I think about the theme. Well, does this actually fit the theme? Then I go back, and then so it's back and forth. So I never have one starting place. Yeah, it's the only thing I care about is the idea something that I'm obsessed with, right? So there's a great test I have, and this is for you because I know you two are young aspiring game designers, right? You have lots of ideas all the time, right? Like you're always thinking about cool stuff, and sometimes you wonder, like, well, what do I think about, right? What idea should I use? You know how when sometimes you like your parents make you go to bed and like, oh, I got to go to bed now, and you really don't want to go to bed because you're occupied, you're thinking about something, you can't stop, and then you wake up in the morning.
That has happened to me like all the time. I can't go to sleep for so long because my head's always on. I never stop thinking about things. It also means I have a lot of dreams where I think about things that are really weird.
That's super cool too, right? But now, if you wake up in the morning and you're still thinking about it, there's something there, right? That means you're obsessed with it. There's something you got to get out. That's usually what I do, right? If I'm really obsessed with it and I need to work on it, like it's just bugging me. I can't get other things done. That's usually how I know what I'm going to work on.
Are there any games that you have that you haven't played?
Yep. I would say... this is the wall of guilt question. All right. I would say that, I'm going to be honest. I would say about a third one of every 3 games on my shelf is still in its original shrink wrap. My wife and I, we have a rule. We have one big shelf, right? A Kallax. I'm sure your dad knows exactly what that is, right? It's
I also kind of do.
Well, of course, yeah, you're a gamer. So so we have one shelf, and we're not allowing more games than that. So that shelf is full. So if we ever buy a game, we have to get rid of another game. Now, we did that so we could have a discipline, so we wouldn't buy games all the time because we don't play. Now, do I listen? No, of course not. Of course, if I see a game, I'm going to buy it anyway. So we have to go home and we have to trade it out for something. Now, the issue, of course, is a lot of games that I really like are for many players, right? They're for like 5, 6 players. I love those big group games. We can't play those right now, so I have a shelf full of them. And I also back a lot of Kickstarters. And Kickstarter games come in these giant boxes that I even cheat a little bit, and I hide a box behind another box on the same shelf. So just to maximize that space, just don't tell anybody. But
people that see the interview are gonna know.
Secret. I got a lot.
You mentioned that you were working on some family games. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, I'm supposed to keep it secret, but all right, I'll tell you a little bit, all right? Just a little bit, but you got to keep it for yourself, all right?
Okay, just a little sneak peek.
Just a little sneak peek. So, so I worked on it. I worked at a job for Simon for 3 years, doing some awesome big box games, and I figured I needed a break, and I wanted to work on more games to play with families, right? In fact, I have nephews and nieces. I have 2 nieces actually that are almost exactly the same age as you.
7 and 11.
Yeah, it's slightly older, but very close, right? And so I'm thinking about that a lot when I'm making games. So I want to make more games that are accessible for all families to play together. And there's some of my favorite kind of games to play. So what I did was I partnered with some designers that I respect and that I've worked well with. So I got a bunch. So I worked I'm doing a game with a friend and collaborator, Erica Hayes-Boyeris, who has 2 boys exactly the same age as you, and which we use for playtesters, in fact. So we're doing a game about we're doing a game that's very toy-like, that's about cats knocking stuff off of tables. Which is really fun, right? Because that's what they do, right? So you have this little cat paw toy, and you're trying to knock the right things off the table to score the right stuff, but not the wrong things, so other people score it. And it's really fun. But it's actually a little bit deep. I'm doing a game for. So I'm doing a game about a theme that might sound boring for you, but it's actually, the thing I like about it is that people who are not interested in the theme still really like the game. But it's a game about Japanese ikebana, which is a style of building plant decorations, plant-based decorations. But of course, it's a family game, so you do it for score and for points. But it's got this really cool gimmick that makes it look really awesome, right? It's a game that looks very pretty when you're doing it. It takes like 30 minutes to play. It's really easy. And I'm very, very proud of it. I did that game with Chris Chung from Lanterns. I'm doing a game for Exploding Kittens. Have you guys heard of Exploding Kittens?
Yes, I have played it.
I haven't.
Okay, so
we don't even.
So the company.
We don't have it, but we've played it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, the company that makes that game, that's the name of their company as well. They're all called Exploding Kittens Games. They're making a bunch of cool new games. I'm doing some work with them. I'm doing a game. I'm doing a fun little game that is also a family-friendly game. It's a battle of wits where you have to grab stuff, but not just mindlessly. You have to think about the right stuff to grab. It's fun. And stuff flies all over the place. And it doesn't matter if you're clumsy. I'm really enjoying it.
What mechanic is Marvel United?
I what mechanic is Marvel United? I don't know. I don't
Like, it seemed like a little bit of a worker placement, but not exactly a worker placement.
Right. Yeah, I don't. So it's funny. I don't really think like that. My co-designer and I, Andrea, and I, we didn't think about, like, we didn't like look at Board Game Geek and say, oh, what mechanics do we use, right? What we did, we were both fans of Marvel, right? So we were like, what kind of game, what kind of experience do we want? And that's a family game too, right? So what kind of game do we want that's simple enough that anybody can understand what to do, but has enough depth in it that you can learn more about the game every time you play. So if you think about what mechanics are in it, it has action. It's hand management in it, because you have a hand of 3 and you have to decide what cards you want to use. It has partnerships, because that's the secret sauce to that game, right? When you play a card, you put it in the storyline, and that lets other people the other players get to use the same symbols that you have. I think that's the rock star mechanic of that game.
What does that mean, the rockstar mechanic?
That's the mechanic. I think that's really flashy that people will talk about.
And we have a few questions that we ask in most interviews.
Okay.
One of them is, what's the most surprising or exciting thing that has happened from working in the board game industry?
Most surprise? Yeah, I guess I don't know about surprising, but it's exciting. So I go to conventions a lot. Remember those? The conventions when we used to be allowed to go in the outside world? I used to go to a lot of game conventions. I have thousands of people. And as I got... Oh, well, we got to change that eventually. So game conventions are awesome. There's so many gamers there. They're going there to play games, and you can meet game designers. You can meet me if you want. We can play games together. It's really cool. And I meet a lot of gamers, right? And as the years have gone on and my games have gotten better known, I meet a lot of people who know who I am and want to make and want to say hi. That's cool. But the thing that I love, and the thing that reminds me why I do what I do, is I meet a lot of parents and more, I meet parents who tell me these elaborate and really cool stories about the games they played and how it helped them bond with their kids. I love that. I love that kind of stuff, right? Because yes, this is my job. I do it for a living, but I do games to make people happy, right? And those kind of stories I really like, because it reminds me of when I was a young kid playing games with my grandmother. We bonded over that kind of stuff. So I think it's really cool that I get to do that for other people. That's easily my favorite part of the job.
What advice do you have for people that like designing games?
All right. You've asked this to a lot of different designers, so I'm sure you've heard a lot of different answers. I'm going to give you one that's not so standard. Stop listening to advice and just make a game. Just make a game. Just don't worry about whether it works. Don't worry about whether it's fun. It won't be, right? The things they make are not, even I've been doing this for 20 years. The first draft of the games I do, they're not that fun. They're pretty bad. But that's the point of game design, is that you're not going to make perfect the first time. You have an idea, you put on paper, and then you have to show other people, and oh, this is not what I wanted at all. And the real art of game design is not the first idea. It's about how you fix that idea and how you make it better and how you make it better and how you make it better. And everybody has opinions on how you should be doing your game design, but it's an art, right? The games you make, they're your games. You will learn how to get better at it just by, I call it osmosis. That might be a big word for you, but it's you learn it just by experiencing other people playing your games. So just play a lot. Make your game, play it a lot, and don't worry. It will be embarrassing. It will be bad, but that's okay. That's the process. There's not a single creative person in this world who ever makes perfect the first time. You watch what's your favorite TV show?
We have a lot.
You have a lot. What's one favorite TV show?
Ninjago.
Ninjago.
All right. I bet so. Ninjago
I'd say
is made by. So Ninjago is made by writers, right? It's made by writers and animators, right? Every episode of that show is made by a team of several writers that get together and figure out how it goes. They write that game. They don't just go, "Oh, I have an idea," and boom, it's an episode. They write down a draft, and the first draft they write, and it's usually terrible. There's some good stuff in there, but it's usually terrible. It's not funny. It's not hitting the right marks. And then they have to rewrite it again. And other people in the room will look at look at the writing and go, "Whoa, what is that? That's gross," right? And they have to fix that. And it will be a little bit embarrassing for them, right? Anyway, that's all I want to tell you, right? Don't worry. Don't worry. Be happy. Be like Timon and Pumbaa from The Lion King, right? Have a problem-free philosophy and just make games.
We end most of our interviews with some would you rathers. Can we ask you some?
Would you rather? All right, I'm ready. I'm going to give you silly answers though, so be ready.
Would you rather live in a tree would you rather live in a tree or live in a cave?
I would rather live in a tree, and I'll tell you why. Because if I was living in a tree, it would mean that I was in a nice warm climate. There's nothing I don't like more than winter. Ugh. I'm the opposite of a panda. I want to live in the tropical summer all year long and live in a nice tree with delicious fruit I can eat. And if there's bees, all right, well, then that's a problem, but we'll figure that out later.
You can actually, we found out today that there's a kind of tree that it grows more than just one fruit. It
grows like oranges and apples.
It grows different fruits.
What? That sounds suspicious.
It's called the fruit salad tree.
It's called a fruit salad tree. Not like it grows.
That's kind of sus to me. I don't know.
It's in Australia.
Oh yeah, okay. Australia's I believe that. Everything strange happens in Australia.
That was funny. You're just like, it's in Australia.
Would you rather not be able to read or not be able to talk?
Oh my God. I would rather not be able to read. Because there are other ways to absorb information. I could listen to audiobooks and I could get the same information. If I couldn't talk, then we couldn't do this interview. What fun would that be?
Well, we could learn Spanish and you could talk Spanish.
That's still talking. Well, but that's still talking. Yeah, that's no
sign language. That's not talking.
I could, but in fact, my wife is fluent in ASL, American Sign Language. I'm too old to learn a new language, though. I respect people who could.
I would rather not be able to talk because reading is a big part of my life.
Good, I'm glad.
And
reading is amazing.
And you can just type or just draw or write.
You could get one of those little machines, right? Like it was like, I'm talking for you.
Would you rather play real life Jumanji, like the one in the movie, or would you rather play real life Jumanji or never play games? Would you rather?
Oh my God. You know what? Fine. All right. I'm going to change my answer then. I would rather play real life Jumanji, but I'm a game designer, so I know how to cheat. So I would figure out, because the best thing about Jumanji is that when you start, you can just say, I'm not going to roll any dice. I'm just going to stay here and enjoy the tropics. And I'll just sit here. I'll just sit around eating from one of those trees that make apples and bananas at the same time from Australia. And
they're called
fruit salad trees.
That's right. I'll eat a fruit salad tree and let everybody else take all the danger.
Would you rather always lose or never play?
Always lose. Instant answer. I mean, never play. That I can't even imagine. Like never playing games. So here's the interesting thing about losing, right? The way I design games, I actually don't design games for the winner. I design games for the losers. And the reason I do that is because winning is its own reward, right? You win, you get the yay, you get the thrill of having beaten everybody else. But I want the game to be fun for as many people as possible. So that's why I like a lot of the more complicated games I do, right? There's little milestones that you can do. So even if you don't win, you can say, oh, I got to do this, or I got to do this. Or if you're like playing Marvel United, right? If you lost, well, yeah, but at least I got rid of all the thugs, or at least we got, right? Or at least we pulled off this really cool combo, the three of us, and got rid of all their threats. You can still tell cool stories about losing, but you can't tell stories if you never get to play.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking time out of your day to let us interview you.
It was really fun.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. You guys are great interviewers. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us on this episode of Kidtalk.
Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.
See you later. Bye.